Okay, so this tutorial is going to discuss the placement of walls in Revit, as well as placement of doors and windows from all the stock stuff that's already preloaded. And we're going to cover custom building some of these components later on down the road, but I wanted to show you guys some of the online resources that are available as well, so that you guys don't feel like everything has to come from inside Revit. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm in the first floor plan here, so I can go ahead and select on that, and under the Architecture tab I'm ready to draw a wall. So I'll click that. And under the Properties tab now, that's going to define what kind of wall that I'm going to draw and what are some of the constraints that we're actually going to be applying to this. And so I pull this drop down menu, we can do generic, we can do exterior walls that are all preloaded, and we can do interior walls that are also preloaded. What I'm going to start out with is an 8-inch generic wall. And we're going to start out with that because that way we want to we're going to be able to change these things out once we select them down the road. And that way we can just sort of rough this out and then we can draw this in here. Something we want to pay attention to is we're looking at this. Once we select that, there's a couple things in here we can look at for constraining it. We can constrain this to the second floor. So from the first floor, since we're drawing on first floor, to the second floor. That constraint can be found there. It can also be found in the Properties tab down here. So we pull that down. The other thing we can do is we can start drawing the location from the center line, or we can start drawing from the faces of the geometry and the core faces as well, which we'll talk about that a little bit farther down the road. Okay, and we'll not have to deal with offset, and we want to have the chain on because that will enable us to draw continuously through the walls. So we'll start off by just drawing really a simple box here, and you can see that I'm on center line right now, and we can go ahead and it'll automatically get all these reference lines in here. So we'll go ahead and draw that in. That was constrained to the second floor. And we can go ahead now and select this. And I'm just going to unconstrain this by setting it to unconnected. And I'll set the height to 15 feet. And we'll go ahead and I'll show you what that does. So right here, you don't see that represented because the cut is being made at 4 feet, like it would be in plan. So we're not going to see that anywhere. But if we scroll down here, we have a 3D view that we can turn on. And we can see that this is now 15 feet tall, and this is constrained. So we can go ahead and come in here. Now, something I did that was very specific that you guys want to pay attention to is that I drew all of this in clockwise fashion. And so what that enabled me to do is as you draw clockwise, that puts the exterior face on the outside. But if you ever need to change that, if you forget to do that, that's not a huge issue. When you select the wall, this little icon right here will invert the direction of the wall, and it's always going to be on the side that is the exterior face. Okay, so we'll go back into our 3D views here. Okay, and that's the basics for drawing the walls. We can also come in here, and I'll go ahead and I'll just change this to one of these sort of ready-made guys that we'll probably not end up ever using, but we'll do wood on shingle here, and you can see that immediately changes out that wall. With all the appropriate information in here. And if you want to see what the guts of that thing look like, you can go to the edit type, and helps we have the actual wall selected. And we can come in here and we can actually see what this looks like in section. We can preview that. We can preview that in an actual section attribute as well. Okay, but this is, and that we'll go through this a little bit more in depth, but you can start to see what's actually going on and how to work and construct a wall section in here. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of that. We don't actually want to edit this. Okay, I'm just starting to show you guys where some of the guts of this stuff is. Alright, and so with that, that's some of the basics for how you guys are going to place your doors. If you go back into floor plan, to move these things around, you can just grab and drag. Everything's automatically going to try and connect itself. Revit is really good about that. But if you grab this and say you know that specific dimension, you can come in here and set that. And then if you click on this little guy right here to make temporary dimensions, that actually creates an annotation, and then we can lock that annotation. So what that will do is if we grab this wall, it'll maintain that relationship as we go through it. I'll go ahead and delete that. And it's going to send error, so I unconstrain that, and that's okay. Now it's going to be free again. Okay? Alright, so the next thing we're going to go is placing the doors. So if we click on the door, just like in with the walls, we have a couple of things that are already loaded in here. And for this, I'm going to actually show you guys one of the Revit resources online that's provided by Autodesk. So if we go under the Insert tab, and we can do Search Autodesk, I'm going to go ahead and search for a pocket wall, or pocket door, sorry. And so what that does is that actually goes online and searches through the Autodesk site, and then we get a couple of these pocket doors, and so we can pull up some of these guys. And so I'll go ahead and come in here, and then it'll give you information about what this is. So this is an interior wall and some of the general dimensions. What is hosting that is going to actually be a wall. So that's all fine and well. And we're going to go ahead and hit check, and then download the selected files. Accept that. Okay, and then we can just click on this guy and open it up. And we can come in here, and if you hold shift and the wheel, you can orbit. So we can look at this guy. And this is already constructed, so it's all fine and well. Once we have that in here, we can just load that into the project. And now it's going to try and draw that pocket door. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. It's going to remain loaded in the project. Once it's been loaded in there, it's going to stay there. I'm going to go ahead and draw some quick interior walls, just so we have some stuff that we can go in here. And I'll just do. We can either do generic 4-inch, or we can just do this partition wall here. This is just basically 2x4s with gypsum board on either side of it. Okay. Alright, so we hit escape twice to get out of that. Under door, it's still on single pocket. We can go ahead and drop that in there. And you can see that it's come in here and into that. If you have having trouble seeing, like this is pretty heavy, if we go into the view tab, we can go ahead and turn this on to thin lines, and we can actually see that construction. Okay. Alright, so that's where some of the resources are. That's really a nice feature in Revit. So it's automatically doing all of our little CAD work documentation. We'll go ahead and I'm going to also just go ahead and load a component from Revit here. So I'm just going to get a single panel door. So if I click on the load family, this is loading from the existing library that comes with the Revit. So there's a lot more that's actually in Revit than what's loaded. And the reason for that is all of these files will become part of the Revit file. So as you load things in, you're going to make your file bigger and bigger and heavier and heavier. So you only want to load things in if you're going to use them. So go ahead and select this guy, one of these, whichever you like. So then again, just like before, that's going to be now loaded into our doors. And so it's already preloaded, so we can come in here and start to draw that. And just like previously, we have these guys where we can invert the opening, so you can make sure that everything's going to actually work out in the way that you want it to be coded, so that you meet fire code and egress code. Okay, so we'll go into our 3D view, and you can see that those guys are loaded. So I'll shift, mouse wheel, and you can see both of these guys. All right, and the mouse wheel is to zoom in and out. If you just click the mouse wheel, you can pan. So as you guys see me doing this. All right. And so now we're going to head, that's essentially what you guys are going to go through. And like I said, I'll be showing you guys in another demo how to build your own custom doors. But for now, that should get you set up. Next thing we're going to go through is the windows. So windows, we come in here. And again, just like before, we have a bunch of series of these guys that are all ready to go and ready and rearing. And for this, actually, you can see that we can also come in here and under the Insert tab, we can still load families. We can search for window types as you guys want. But I'm going to show you one of the online resources. If you go to revitcity.com and sign up for this, they have a very large library of stuff that's been generated by other people. So we can come in here and under Windows, we can go ahead and search for a wooden window here. Okay, so once you've found a file that you like, we'll say that we like this guy. We'll go ahead and download him. Right, so we can go ahead and load him into the project. And now we can go ahead and insert that in. So we go back into 3D views. We can go ahead and see what we're doing here. Alright, and then some things can be adjusted from this. So say we can select this, we can set the elevation height. So something like 5 feet. And you can see that that starts to be able to be adjusted up and down. So we can start to play with some of the sizing in this. We can also, if we edit the type, some of the parameters, so like the width and the height, can be adjusted in here as well. So we can say that this is, we'll call this a 3 space 6. That'll make it a 3'6". Hit apply. Hit OK. And we can make this window wider and adjust those parameters. Okay. Shift, we can start to see. Right, and so that's basically this, just how we can start to insert some of these ready-made things, and it's also how we can use some of the online resources.